"We all agreed not to do gifts this year," my mom announced, smiling like a queen declaring peace. For a second, the room felt still too perfect. The fire crackled, the chandelier hummed, and I could almost believe her. Then the front door opened and my sister swept in arms, stacked with shimmering boxes, laughter echoing through the house. My son froze, watching his cousin tear into an iPhone 17 Pro Max, tears of joy spilling down his face. I felt something inside me snap, not loudly, just clean. That night, no one noticed I stayed awake. They will when they see what I did next. I grew up in Wisconsin, the kind of place where winters felt endless and family meant everything, or so I thought. My name's Zoe. I'm 37, married to Ethan, a paramedic who somehow still finds patients after 12-hour shifts. We have 2 kids, Emma, 9, quiet and thoughtful, and Jake, 7, all energy and heart. We live in a modest house with peeling white paint and a furnace that moans every December. Still, it's home warm in the ways that matter. My parents, Carolyn and Rick, live 20 minutes away in their colonial dream house, the kind with wreaths on every window and a driveway so long it looks like an invitation to judge you before you reach the door. My mother loves perfection, the appearance of it at least. Her pearls, her hair, the way she calls things simple right before making them complicated. My father, a man who measures love in price tags and golf scores. And then there's Tessa, my younger sister. She's the sparkle to my stability, the favorite since we were kids. She never had to earn affection. She just arrived, and the room shifted to her orbit. I used to think I was okay being the dependable one, the one who remembered birthdays, who showed up early, who stayed late to help clean. Every family needs one, right back. Then I didn't see how that kind of loyalty turns into currency, how the more you give, the more people expect you to. When we were little, Mom used to say Zoe's the sensible one. She doesn't need much. At 14, I gave up summer camp so Tessa could go to cheer camp. You understand, Mom said, pressing a 20 into my hand, like that made it fair. At 23, I co-signed Tessa's first apartment lease because she's still finding her footing. At 28, I had a small courthouse wedding so we wouldn't overshadow Tessa's engagement party. Every time I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. Still, every Christmas, I'd show up with homemade cookies, hand-knit scarves, and the same fragile hope that this year might feel different. Last year, when Ethan's overtime was cut, we agreed to skip big gifts, just focus on family time. Presents, not presents, Emma had said, proud of herself for remembering the phrase we'd been using to keep spirits high. I clung to that. A week before Christmas, Mom called, her voice bright. "We're keeping things simple this year. No pressure, Zoe. Just bring yourselves." It sounded reasonable, comforting even. I wanted to believe it. I wanted my kids to believe in family the way I once did. So we baked brownies wrapped in parchment tied with candy cane ribbons Emma made herself. Jake drew Christmas cards full of glitter and misspelled joy. We packed them carefully, laughing as frosting smeared our fingers. For a moment, it felt right, like maybe all the years of imbalance could be wiped clean by one honest Christmas. Driving to my parents' house, snow fell in slow, forgiving flakes. The radio hummed low and Ethan reached over to squeeze my hand. "It'll be fine," he said, though we both knew what he meant was brace yourself. Still, I nodded, because that's what I do. When we pulled into the driveway, I caught sight of the front porch, perfectly symmetrical, wreaths, ribbons that matched the drapes. My mother opened the door before we knocked her smile tight and camera ready. "There you are," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. The smell of cinnamon and control filled the foyer. "Remember, we all agreed no gifts?" I smiled back, the kind of smile you give when you already know the ending, but you're pretending not to. That night would prove one thing: it's never the agreement that breaks you. It's realizing they never meant it in the first place. Dinner started the way it always did. Too bright, too loud, too perfect. My mom's table gleamed with gold chargers and cloth napkins folded like swans. The catered food arrived in silver trays, steaming and flawless. She waved off my brownies as if they were a charming relic from the past. "Oh, how sweet," she said, setting them beside the appetizers like an afterthought. Ethan helped Rick uncork wine, the two of them exchanging polite small talk that sounded rehearsed. Mom peppered Ethan with questions about his work schedule, her tone coded in concern but sharp underneath. Still, those long shifts. That must be tough on the kids. Translation: you should be earning more. Ethan smiled, used to her double-edged compliments, but I saw the flicker in his jaw. Across the table, Tessa breezed in, 20 minutes late, her coat glimmering under the chandelier. "Sorry the roads were terrible," she announced, kissing Mom on both cheeks, like she'd just returned from Paris instead of the suburbs. Logan followed behind, arms full of glossy gift bags. "Tessa." Mom clapped her hands like a child. "You made it." The room tilted. I looked down at my lap, breathing through the sting. "We all agreed no gifts this year." The words circled my mind like a cruel joke. Tessa set the bags near the tree. "Don't worry, these aren't real gifts. Just little things we picked up." She winked, laughter spreading like perfume. Rick chuckled. "You always go above and beyond, sweetheart." No one looked at me. Jake tugged at my sleeve. "Can we give Grandma our brownies now?" he whispered. I nodded, forcing a smile. Emma carried the wrap tray, her small hands trembling as she offered it to my mother. "Oh, darling," Mom said, taking it delicately. "Homemade. How lovely." Her tone was polite, distant. She didn't even open it. My throat tightened. I watched Emma's expression shift, her excitement dimming. She set down the brownies next to the shrimp platter and stood silently beside me. Dinner rolled on conversation, looping around Tessa's new kitchen renovation, her kids' private school, their upcoming trip to Maui. Every story sparkled with money. I sipped my water, feeling smaller with each passing toast. At one point, Rick turned to me. "So Zoe's still at that little marketing job?" Ethan stepped in before I could answer. "She's department lead now," he said quietly. "Oh," Rick raised an eyebrow. "Well, good for you." The same tone he used when he congratulated his golf buddies on not losing by too much. I laughed softly, but it came out wrong, thin, brittle. The plates cleared and conversation drifted toward the tree. Tessa's sons buzzed with excitement, whispering about what was in the bags. Mom said, "We'll just let them open a few things." My stomach dropped. Jake's hand found mine under the table, sticky with frosting. He smiled up at me, oblivious, trusting. Emma sat perfectly still, eyes flicking from the pile of presents to me. I squeezed her hand back, pretending calm, while every nerve in my body screamed. I'd told myself for years that these moments didn't matter, that being overlooked wasn't the same as being unloved. But watching my children's faces now, their confusion, their quiet hurt, I realized what I'd been protecting wasn't peace. It was everyone else's comfort at the expense of mine, and something deep inside me started to shift. The first gift tore open with a sound that split the room, the sharp rip of expensive paper. Then another and another. Tessa's sons sat on the floor, surrounded by glossy boxes, their laughter rising with each unwrapping. An iPhone 17 Pro Max shimmered beneath the twinkling lights. "Oh my God, Mom!" Her oldest shouted, tears of joy streaming down his face. The room erupted in cheers, phones out, flashes popping. Across the room, Jake froze mid-step. He still held the handmade card he'd drawn for Grandma, a wobbly tree with crooked stars. His eyes darted from the glowing phone to his grandmother's smiling face. "Didn't Grandma say no gifts?" he whispered. Emma pressed closer to me, her small hand clutching my sleeve. I couldn't answer. I was staring at my mother, her radiant practice smile, the one she saves for company. "It's just a little something," she said. We didn't want to make a big deal. I could feel my pulse in my ears. My mother's pearls gleamed under the chandelier as she helped Tessa gather the wrapping paper, laughing about kids these days. Logan tossed the empty boxes into a pile. "Worth every penny," he said proudly. Rick nodded, chuckling. "That's what Christmas is about, huh? Seeing their faces light up." The laughter blurred, distant and hollow. All I could hear was Jake's quiet voice again. "Are we poor, Mom?" The words hit harder than anything my parents had ever said. My throat closed. Emma's fingers tightened around mine until they trembled. I glanced at the tray of brownies, untouched edges drying under the heat vent. The cards we made were still stacked neatly on the table, glitter dulling under artificial light. Tessa leaned against the mantel, sipping champagne, watching me watch them. Her smirk was soft, but sharp. "Don't be so serious, Zoe." It's Christmas." My father sighed dramatically. Here we go again. That was it, the final insult, the casual dismissal of years of swallowed pride. I stood slow and steady. The laughter dimmed. "We should get going," I said quietly. Mom blinked, surprised. "But dessert?" "You can have ours," I cut in. My voice didn't shake. "Merry Christmas." Ethan helped the kids with their coats. No one stopped us, not really. Maybe they didn't believe I meant it. Outside, snow drifted under the porch light, soft and silent. Jake's mitten slipped from my hand as he climbed into the car. "Are they mad at us?" he asked. "No, sweetheart," I said. My voice was calm now, almost light. "They just don't understand." As we drove away, the house behind us glowed like a movie set, perfect hollow staged. I looked in the rearview mirror at my children's faces pale in the glow of Christmas lights. I'd spent my life being the quiet one, the reasonable one. But somewhere between that untouched plate of brownies and my son's question, something inside me cracked open. It wasn't anger. It was clarity, sharp, clean, irreversible. That night, while the world slept under a blanket of snow, I decided I'd never play their game again. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the furnace and the steady breathing of my kids down the hall. I sat at the kitchen table in my robe, a half-empty mug of cocoa cooling beside me. My laptop screen glowed pale blue in the dark. I opened our bank account, something I'd avoided for months. Rows of transactions scrolled past familiar but suddenly obscene. Hulu Family Plan, Verizon Shared, Amazon Household, Gym Membership, added user Rick Harris. I stared until the numbers blurred. Year after year I'd been paying for their comforts. My parents, my sister, even their cell phones. Little favors that turned into permanent debts. My pulse steadied. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. I opened a new spreadsheet, typed one word in the header, reclaiming. Line by line, I started listing everything. Netflix Family, $19.99. Amazon Prime, $14.99. Verizon, $318.75. Gym, $39.99. Insurance premiums, subscriptions, donations in their names. The total crept higher, the screen filling with proof of every quiet yes I'd ever given. Ethan's voice startled me from the doorway. "Zoe, it's almost 4, I know." He came closer, hair messy, eyes soft with concern. "What are you doing taking back what's ours?" He looked at the spreadsheet, then at me. "You sure?" I nodded. "That night at Mom's, Jake asked if we're poor. I can't ever let him feel that way again." He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Need help?" "No," I said, closing my fingers around the mouse. "This part's mine." I started deleting, one by one. Click, Netflix gone. Click, Amazon terminated. Click, Verizon 3 secondary lines removed. Each sound was like a release valve hissing open. The more I cut, the lighter I felt. The guilt that had lived in my chest for decades loosened its grip. Ethan poured coffee and set it beside me. "You've been holding that family together a long time," he said quietly. "Yeah," I murmured, eyes still on the screen, but not anymore. When I finished, the spreadsheet showed a new column reclaimed, $612.71 per month. At sunrise, I closed the laptop and exhaled. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt awake. The phone started buzzing around 8. Carolyn, then Rick, then Tessa. 47 missed calls by the time I checked. Ethan glanced at me from the stove. "You gonna answer no?" The pounding came next, hard, insistent. I opened the door to find my parents on the porch, both red-faced from cold and fury. Behind them, 2 police officers shifted awkwardly. "This is my daughter, Carolyn," announced. "She hacked our accounts and stole our services." The younger officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, could we talk inside?" I stepped back, calm. "Sure. Coffee." They followed me in. I laid out the printed statements, each account, each charge, each one in my name. The officer skimmed them, nodding. "These are legally yours, ma'am. You're entitled to cancel." Rick exploded. "We raised you. You can't just—" I didn't take anything I said quietly. I just stopped giving what was never appreciated. Silence. The officers exchanged a glance. Then one said gently, "This seems like a family matter." They left. My parents didn't. Carolyn's voice trembled. Family doesn't do this. Exactly, I said. Family doesn't take and call it love. Rick's face fell. After everything we've done for you, you mean everything I've paid for. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't apologize. They left without another word, the slam of the door echoing through the house. I leaned against the counter, shaking not from fear, but from release. Ethan came over, wrapping an arm around me. You okay, I think? I said, exhaling slowly. I finally am. By afternoon, the family group chat lit up like a siren. Mom's first message read, "We're heartbroken. This isn't how we raised you." Then Tessa chimed in, "Can't believe my own sister ruined Christmas." Rick added his usual punctuation, "unacceptable." I didn't respond. Instead, I made pancakes with Jake while Emma practiced her recorder for the school recital. For once, the noise in my kitchen was just ours. Simple, honest, peaceful. That evening, the doorbell rang again. My parents stood on the porch, smaller somehow, their outrage cooled into confusion. Mom's voice cracked. "We just want to talk." I let them in. The living room smelled like coffee and cinnamon, my home, not theirs. Dad started pacing. "Do you know how much we sacrificed for you?" I opened a folder and set it on the coffee table. "I do. And I know exactly how much I've sacrificed for you. Rows of numbers. 10 years of quiet giving laid bare. Phone bills, insurance subscriptions, temporary help that never ended." Mom scanned the pages, face draining of color. "I never asked for repayment," I said evenly, "but I'm done carrying the weight of your choices." She looked up, eyes glistening. "We didn't mean to take advantage." "I know," I said softly, "but intent doesn't erase impact." Ethan stood behind me, silent support. The kids' laughter drifted from the hallway, proof of the life I was protecting. Dad sank onto the couch, the fight gone from his shoulders. So what happens now? I closed the folder. Now I take care of my family. You take care of yours. For the first time in years, there was no shouting, just quiet acceptance, awkward and real. As they left, Mom paused at the door. "We'll call next time," she murmured. I nodded. That's all I've ever wanted. When the door clicked shut, Ethan slipped an arm around my waist. The house felt lighter, like someone had opened every window at once. I wasn't the peacekeeper anymore. I was the boundary. 6 months later, summer sunlight spilled across our backyard. Emma knelt beside me, planting tomato seedlings, her hands covered in soil. Jake chased bubbles across the grass, laughter echoing through the air. Ethan was inside finishing his paramedic certification exam, the one we could finally afford. The house felt different now, lighter, like it could finally breathe. Mom called that morning. She didn't lecture, didn't guilt trip, just asked if she could visit this weekend if it's a good time. I said yes, because boundaries once respected can start to grow into something like respect. As I rinsed my hands under the hose, I looked at our small, ordinary yard and smiled. We didn't need luxury to feel rich. We just needed peace. Voiceover fades in. I used to think keeping the family together meant never saying no, but sometimes the bravest way to love is to stop letting people take from you. Some gifts can't be wrapped, they have to be earned. If you've ever had to choose peace over pleasing others, this story was for you. Hit subscribe and stay with us for more real family dramas, true stories of betrayal, boundaries, and redemption. Catch our full family betrayal playlist and new podcast episodes for more stories like this one. Your support helps us tell the stories that deserve to be heard.